breath work, my 20 minutes of breath work, 4-6 breathing. Oh yeah, I forgot. For the sake of engagement, I have more engagement and watch time when I wear my shirt versus the jacket. So, in order to optimize this live stream's performance, I have to take my jacket off. Okay. I guess because I look more jacked. When I wear the jacket, I just look like a homeless person. But when I have the shirt on, you can see that I have some muscle, so it's like, you know, more engaging, I guess. But anyways, today's topic is success is all about dopamine management. Speaking of dopamine, man, I'm exhausted today. So bear with me as I try to articulate my words. I always have been a bit of a wuss when it comes to sleep deprivation for some reason. But we're gonna make do with what we have. Before I even continue, do not disturb. When somebody calls me, the live stream gets absolutely decimated. I don't know what that's all about. YouTube, please fix the issue. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, today's topic is all about dopamine management. I honestly believe at the end of the day, success comes down to your dopamine tone, your dopamine baseline, and your dopamine receptor sensitivity. Now, I might be biased because I have ADHD. And being born with ADHD, living with ADHD, your dopamine levels are chronically lower than the average person. Although I'm not sure how true that is, because I can suffer more than most people. I seem to be more disciplined, but anyways, that's a side point. I might be a bit biased towards dopamine because of the discipline. What's going on? Chinese or no, this is Korean letters. Welcome to the stream. I can't really read Korean, unfortunately. I speak English. So, unless you can speak English, I'm afraid we won't be able to communicate, my friend. That being said, I think at the end of the day, life comes down to dopamine, your dopamine levels. I think, sorry, not life. I will say success comes down to your dopamine levels. Depends on what you're looking for, right? Life is a big topic. There's many aspects of life. There's happiness, there's family, whatever. We're not going to get into any of that. What I'm focusing on in this channel is success. How to get success, I think it comes down to dopamine. You speak a little English? Okay, perfect. Success at the end of the day boils down to what your dopamine levels are. If you have low dopamine, I don't care how disciplined or how much willpower you have, how disciplined you are, or how much willpower you have, you are not going to be able to do the things that you need to do in order to be successful. I really do think it boils down to dopamine. I think the people that are chronic failures and never get anywhere in life and the quote-unquote losers, they are very low dopamine levels. When you look at successful people and people who seem to make it, they have a high dopamine tone. What does that mean? If you look at what actually increases your dopamine levels in a natural way, I'm not talking about spikes, but I'm talking about overall dopamine baseline. What's going on, Maria? Welcome to the stream. Kohan, what's going on? Welcome. We're not talking about spikes and dips in dopamine. I'm talking about overall baseline dopamine. If you look at the things that increase dopamine, the people that are not successful, they are doing the complete opposite of what you need to do for healthy dopamine levels. Phone at nighttime, you're blasting your eyes with blue light, you're not getting enough sleep, you are eating complete garbage, you're not eating a healthy diet, right? You're doing things that are wrecking your dopamine levels. You're scrolling on social media, you're watching porn, you're binge watching Netflix, you're doing these things that are basically spiking the crap out of your dopamine levels. So when they go back down, they return lower than baseline. And you're constantly lowering your baseline levels of dopamine because you keep stimulating and spiking your dopamine levels, right? As human beings, I'm gonna say it, we're like dumb animals. Y'all think you're intelligent and like you think you're at the top of the food chain, but we're not as intelligent as we think we are. At the end of the day, we are very similar to animals in the sense that we mindlessly will chase pleasure and avoid pain just like any other creature on planet Earth, right? And what happens when you have a creature that avoids pain and chases pleasure, that used to work back in the caveman times because that would force you to do the hard shit that you need to do to survive, to procreate, etc. Nowadays, that same instinct that forced you to go to new terrain to hunt the deer so you can feed your tribe for the week is now the same thing in this comfortable society that we live in that's pushing you to binge watch Netflix, scroll on your phone. It's almost not really your fault in the sense that your environment is set up against you. On this channel I focus a lot on weight loss because I'm a weight loss coach, and honestly through the lens of weight loss, like a lot of my clients that are obese, it's kind of not even their fault they're obese. It's kind of like I would probably be obese as well if I was in the same situation as them, because imagine your whole family's obese. That's considered normal. What is this guy doing, bro? That's considered normal. Your family's has a pizza night every week, which is like 4,500 calories, which puts you over. So even if you're losing weight on the rest of the week, you're over your calories, and now you're never going anywhere. You're not losing weight. So like it's almost not your fault in the sense that life nowadays is so structured for you to be a failure. Like the world is really against you as an average person these days. What's going on, Saber, welcome. Ikute, welcome. Some of you guys have some spam as your name. I can't really read your name. Welcome. So the world is kind of stacked against you. The world that doesn't want you to be successful, the world wants you to be a hardworking slave that feeds the cog of the machine, right? Nobody gives a fuck about you in this world. Nobody cares except for your mom, maybe your dad if you're lucky. I know some people that don't even have that. Most people don't actually care about you, right? Everybody is doing something that is self-interested. Even me. I'm not doing this live stream necessarily because I want to help you. I'm doing this live stream for my own selfish reasons. I'm trying to get subscribers. I'm trying to build my personal brand. And by helping you guys out, I in turn will have people that will subscribe to me and build my brand and help me. So in a way, this is self-interested. If I knew for a fact that this was never going to amount to anything and nothing was going to come out of this, I wouldn't be wasting my time doing this. Let's just keep it real. I'm just being real with you guys. I'm telling you the stuff that nobody else is telling you to your face, right? So nobody cares about you. Right? Everybody is self-interested. These guys that are making these apps on their phone, they don't care how it ruins your life. The guys that are filming the pornography, they're not thinking, man, I'm really ruining Jason's mental health by doing this. I don't know how I'm gonna sleep at night, right? No, they're thinking, man, we're gonna make so much money from these guys, these fucking losers that are watching this stuff. Keep those subscriptions coming, baby. Let's keep those views, that watch time, that attention, right? So everybody is trying to ruin your life for their own benefit, and you're letting them. You are 100% letting these people ruin your life. There are people who their entire job, their entire purpose in life is to organize the apps to be as addicting as possible, to stimulate as much dopamine from your brain as possible, to hijack your brain, hijack your attention for their own profit so that they can get the ad revenue going for their company. These guys are trying to ruin your life. Everybody's trying to ruin your life for their own betterment, and you are letting them, right? And you're just going la la la, doop-de-doo, like a moth to the flame, right? You're constantly, most of you guys, and from what I've seen, don't even care that you're doing this, which is like number one. You just whatever. You gotta relax sometimes. You gotta doom scroll sometimes. You gotta enjoy life sometimes. And you're constantly wrecking your dopamine. You're constantly lowering your baseline. And then you wonder why you have no motivation to do anything, no motivation to get your life on track. And then you think, maybe I'm just a lost cause. Maybe I should just give up, get depressed. These guys don't care that that's happening to you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Then there are some of you that actually are like, no, I have to be focused. I have to be serious. I have to make this happen. But you can't help yourselves because you're addicted, right? Either way, it's a problem. I'm your favorite streamer. I appreciate that. Thank you. 100% right. Yeah. So these apps are not here for your betterment. You are mindlessly scrolling on these apps. You're mindlessly doing things without even giving it a second thought. It's not even the time that you're wasting. When you binge watch a Netflix show and you stay up until 2 in the morning, right? When you have school in the morning, work in the morning, whatever. It's not even the fact that you are spending the time that you could be spending on whatever goals you have in life, right? I'm assuming some of you guys on here, based on the title of the stream, want to be successful one way or another. Whatever that goal is. I don't care if you want to be a world-class pianist, if you want to be a millionaire, you want to drive a Lamborghini, or you just want a stable family. Whatever your goal is. I'm assuming you have something you're working towards. Instead of dedicating that time to making progress on that, you will not only just waste the time on Netflix, but that watching the Netflix is not just wasting your time, it's also lowering your dopamine levels. Every time you do something that gives you a reward for no effort is literally lowering your battery in your brain. Dopamine is like a battery in your brain that is giving you the juice of life, that is giving you the motivation, that is giving you the drive to want to do things. Have you ever seen people that just seem to like have that drive? They just like disciplined people, and you're like, bro, how does this guy do it? We're clearly two different people, right? I'm just not like that. I'm lazy. I'm unmotivated. No, you're not lazy. You're not unmotivated. You're just completely drained of any dopamine you have in your brain, because you can't, any dopamine you have, you just waste it all on these mindless pleasures of life. This cheap dopamine, these free things, right? My opinion personally, if you're not where you want to be in life, you shouldn't even spend the intention should be not to spend any time on this stuff, because it's just clearly bad for you. It's kind of like the argument for alcohol. People will say like, how much alcohol is okay? The truth is, none of it is good. Even if you have a very small amount, even if you have one drink a week, that's still damaging you. There is no point of alcohol where it's okay, like it's acceptable, and if you go over that point, then it becomes damaging. No, alcohol is bad for you, period. Anytime you drink, you are damaging your health. So you should basically, the intention should be not to have it at all. Or you have to be very mindful of what you are doing. So if you're at a party or somewhere where it's worth it, then maybe you can make that decision. But if you're just kind of mindlessly having alcohol, like there are people out there that are drinking beer on your free time, like by yourself at home, you're having a half a pack of beer every day. Like what? Like why? Is that worth it? You're constantly ruining your dopamine, ruining everything else as well. But this is just an example, right? So how much doom scrolling is okay before you go into the red? The answer is any doom scrolling at all is a waste of humanity. It's a waste of life. You shouldn't even be on social media, ideally. You shouldn't even watch a single X-rated film. Like, these things are just bad for you, right? So first of all, it's realizing that every time you do this stuff, it's draining your mental battery, right? That's number one. Number two, so let's actually get into how do we increase our dopamine levels. Instead of me telling you guys what not to do, let's start with like, what can you do to naturally become the kind of person who is motivated and driven to reach their goals in the first place, okay? Now that we understand that the problem is your dopamine levels are screwed, and that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because the lower your dopamine is, the more you want to seek stimulation and seek those addictive behaviors in the first place, and then it's a downward spiral. You're basically like a drug addict, but like it's not considered that big of a deal because everybody's doing it. Everybody's addicted to drugs, and it's just like a normal thing at this point, basically. So how do you get out of that? We'll get into that in a second, because it's not as simple as just stopping. And what can we do to actually increase our dopamine levels? So I have an actual dopamine protocol over the decades of my life being super low in dopamine, generally speaking. I've been diagnosed with ADHD since I was 6. I did all the things that I told you is bad for you, so I've lived it. It's not like I came out of the womb a disciplined workaholic that works out every day. I started off, video games, all of that stuff, all day, every day, and so I know what it's like to be in that situation where you want to stop, but you can't, right? Okay, so let's start off with the low-hanging fruit. I'm just trying to think of doing this from instead of just saying random stuff, I want to kind of characterize this as like a step-by-step game plan. Number one, if you could only do one thing that would give you the biggest return on your investment, it would be to find the one habit or addiction that you have that is causing you the most problems, the thing that you're addicted to the most, the thing that you spend the most time on, and I would replace that with a healthy alternative that is hard to do, but when you finish doing it, it gives you a sense of satisfaction and it levels you up in life. Whether it's video games, whether it's doom scrolling, whether it's watching Netflix, whether it is eating garbage, just one of those things. Cut it out or severely limit it. Give yourself a rule of when you're gonna do it. Maybe it's once a week, whatever. But my recommendation would be to just cut it out in general. The pleasure in life isn't to do these things. The pleasure in life is to level up your life. That is the joy of life. So you don't need any of these crutches anyways. You don't need to play video games to have a fulfilling life. Your life should be the video game. So any time you spend playing video games could have been spent leveling up the video game in real life. So just don't play video games and just play the video game of real life. That's the only video game you should play, is real life, right? Welcome, Max. Thank you for joining us. By the way, guys, if you're getting value from this, be sure to subscribe. I talk about this stuff pretty much every day. And so if you constantly tune in, you're going to slowly rewire yourself, your brain and your subconscious to like think in this way, which is going to help you be more successful in life. So by subscribing to me, you're helping yourself out. That being said, cutting out one bad behavior and replacing it with a good one, there are certain things you can do to make this easier. I don't want to go super in depth because I could do I could talk about this for like a whole weekend. I could go deep into the trenches on this. We don't have the time for that today, so I'm going to kind of go a little bit more surface level and give you guys the overall idea and the breakdown. But as you guys know, sleep is super important, right? Getting enough good quality sleep, I don't need to tell you guys this, is super important to do You need about 7 to 9 hours for adults, and a little bit more if you're a teenager or a kid. So that's number one. Getting the quality sleep, though, is even more important than the quantity. So you're better off getting 7 high quality hours than 9 not so good hours. The best thing you can do to improve your sleep quality is to limit or shut off any kind of screens 1 hour before bedtime. You want to make sure that your room is completely dark. I actually went as far as to install a red light into my room. I have a red light bulb where the light is supposed to be for my room. Wherever you put light in your room, put a red light bulb. It's $5 on Amazon. Red light, ideally you want an infrared light, but that stuff is expensive. The red light bulb itself is only $5, $10 on Amazon. And what that does is it increases your production of melatonin, which is the hormone associated with sleep quality. It also reverses DNA damage on the skin, on the eyes, by increasing the amount of ATP in the cell. Basically, it keeps you looking younger for a longer period of time. So the more time you spend doing red light therapy, the more you can extend your youth, right? But for sleep quality, it really increases melatonin. The more you can produce melatonin at night, the more your brain literally restores your dopamine levels in your brain, right? When you sleep, especially deep sleep, that is when your body is repairing, it's flushing out toxins, your catecholamine levels, which is the chemicals in your brain, replenish. So the more sleep you can get, the higher your dopamine levels are going to be. When you wake up in the morning, you can take a cold shower. By the way, you're going to notice there's a theme of these things. They all suck, and you're not going to want to do any of them. Full disclosure. None of these are going to be fun, just so you know, but they will change your life. And so take that what it will be. Having a cold shower in the morning increases your dopamine levels by 200% for about 4 hours afterwards. And so if you take a cold shower in the morning, your dopamine levels will be twice as high for about 4 hours. I think that's pretty good return on investment. It also strengthens the area in your brain known as the... I actually forgot the name of it. But there's basically an area in your brain associated with willpower and discipline that gets stronger the more you do cold showers, because it sucks. You don't want to do it. And so the more you do something that you don't want to do, the more you will become disciplined and develop your ability to do hard stuff in the future. What are you talking about? The title of this stream is Success Comes Down to Dopamine Management. So we're talking about how to manage your dopamine levels to maximize your success in life, whatever it is you're trying to get to, right? This stuff is basically life or death. This stuff is literally the difference between you never amounting to anything in life and living the life of your dreams. All comes down to this stuff. It all comes down to dopamine and dopamine levels in your brain. Welcome to the stream, by the way, Box Builder. So you'll notice that none of this stuff is fun. And in one of my streams a couple days ago, I talked about life is not fun. Life is not supposed to be enjoyable. Life is supposed to be miserable. If you want, you can look at that video. But the only way to have joy in life is to suffer initially. The reason why we suffer is because we are soft and we're weak in the head. And that is what makes every little thing miserable to us. Whereas if you run towards the pain and you run towards the suffering and you actually look forward to the suffering, you strengthen your brain, you strengthen your mind, and all of a sudden things become enjoyable. I'll give you an example. Look at a kid, right? When you take a lollipop away from a kid, it's really not a big deal. But to that kid, they're crying. They're miserable. Their life is ruined. Have you ever seen kids at the park that cry their eyes out? They're bawling their eyes out because dad says it's time to go. They've had 2 hours at the playground. They want to keep playing, but they can't. Imagine that your life is so good and carefree that the biggest problem you have is that you don't get to play for long enough at the playground. But to them, this is so miserable because they're soft. They're weak-minded, right? Children are weak-minded because they haven't had to go through anything difficult in their life. And so that kid who doesn't have any responsibilities has a good, like if you could live their life again, you would be like in heaven on earth, right? Because they have zero responsibility. They have all the free time in the world. They get to watch freaking SpongeBob all day. Life is pretty damn good. But to them in that moment, they're miserable. Whereas if somebody said, okay, Ben, we gotta go, like it's time, you'd be like, okay, cool. Like I had a good time, it was good. Because you're mentally tougher, right? So the degree of how miserable your life is to the degree of how weak you are in the brain. By running away from the pain of life and running away from the suffering, you're keeping yourself weak, which is going to make sure that you stay suffering, stay miserable for the rest of your life. The only way to be happy, to truly be happy, and to truly have joy is to embrace the pain and embrace the suffering of reality and to go through that pain. And maybe when you're lucky, one day you'll look up and you'll have some moments of joy here and there. People will respect you more, whatever. You'll paradoxically be more happy focusing on not being happy. That's my little rant for that. But this is just to set up context for what I'm talking about. Welcome to the stream, LRE. Welcome. You got dopamine on your phone, exactly. The phone is the biggest killer, by the way. I actually think the phone is worse than computers. There's something about the phone, I don't know what it is. I think it's like, it's just designed to be more addicting. Like the computer, I don't know, doing stuff on the computer, it's easier, like for example, to go on Instagram on your computer, it's so much less addicting than going on Instagram on your phone. The phone is like designed to be addicting. That stuff is killer. But yeah, we're talking about dopamine to increase your ability to enjoy life and be successful. So taking cold showers is one of those things. First thing in the morning. You also want to go outside and go for a walk first thing in the morning. The reason why is because the light exposure goes into your retina and it stimulates cortisol, which makes you feel more alert, and it starts a cascading effect that makes you fall asleep better and faster when it's time to go to bed, because you're stimulating yourself at the right time first thing in the morning. So you're more tired when it's time to go to sleep. So you know how you feel like, some of you might feel wired up, like when it's time to go to bed you're just like this and you're staring at the ceiling all day. It's because your circadian rhythm sucks, dude. That's why you're like that. Go wake up early, go outside, get some fresh air, get some sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning. And over time that will make it so that you're more awake in the morning, so by the time it's time to go to sleep, you're tired and you're ready to go to sleep and you fall asleep better, which we all know sleeping better gives you more dopamine, and it's a cycle, right? That's number one. Number two, caffeine. I'm gonna say it. I think caffeine is demonized for some reason. I haven't seen any reason why caffeine is like a bad thing. And all the research I've done, the only problem is going over you don't want to go over the healthy limit of caffeine, because then that can lower your baseline over time and can cause addiction and dependence. But theoretically, caffeine is just flat out good for you. There's really no, as long as you keep it under control and you don't go crazy, it's actually a net positive in your life. There's no downside to it in the like as long as you're responsible about it. The upper limit for caffeine intake is 300 to 400 milligrams, which means you can have 4 cups of coffee and you're still good. So as long as you're keeping it under 4 cups a day or up to 4 cups a day, you're fine. Caffeine is a neuromodulator, which basically makes your brain more sensitive to the dopamine that you already have. That's why when you drink coffee, you're more motivated, you're more stimulated, you're more alert. So coffee, good. Good. Anything with caffeine really is fine to have. In fact, you're probably better off. I would argue that you're better off drinking caffeine than not having caffeine, objectively speaking. It's also going to make it easier to do the stuff that is hard, which the more you do hard stuff, the more you rewire your brain to be okay with doing hard stuff. So caffeine overall, bottom line is it's good for you. Don't listen to anybody else that says it's bad. I'm telling you right now, as long as you're not going crazy, you're having like 10 coffees a day, it's actually better to have it than not to have it. So that's another one. I'm going in order of the day, all the things that I do for dopamine levels. The next thing that you can do is exercise. Exercise has been proven time and time again to increase your dopamine tone, but only if you do 5 or 6 times a week. If you do less than that, it won't increase your permanent baseline. But if you exercise 5 or 6 times a week, that will increase the overall level of dopamine in your brain. It'll upregulate your dopamine levels. I don't actually understand what, like mechanistically, what's going on there, but I should probably look into that, honestly. I should probably do some research on that. But from what I understand, 5 or 6 times a week is good. What is recommended, generally speaking, is 3 times a week weight training and 3 times a week cardio. Some form of that, one form or another, right? And that will be done. The earlier you do that in the morning, the better it is. The later you train, the worse it is. I used to feel exhausted all the time, and I was trying to figure out what it is, and I have this Oura ring that tracks my sleep quality, and I noticed whenever I would train late at night after work, my sleep would be awful. My recovery was bad. Then I started moving my workouts earlier in the day, so it wasn't the morning, but it was like, we're talking like 2 p.m. in between clients or whatever, or in the afternoon before training clients instead of at night, and I felt perfectly fine. My energy levels were great. I wasn't exhausted all day. And it turns out that when you work out late at night, it increases your heart rate and your metabolism, so your body is now amped up. So when it's time to go to bed, you're basically, even if you fall asleep, the quality of your sleep is so terrible because your body is basically awake while you're sleeping. It's more alert, it's more, your heart rate's beating, so you're not actually resting and recovering. So the earlier in the day that you could work out, the better. As a rule of thumb, you shouldn't train 3 hours before bedtime is the recommendation. So like if you go to bed at like 11, you should be done your training at latest 8 p.m. Now, obviously, if you're trying to get in the habit of exercise and that's all you have, then that's better than nothing. But keep in mind that the earlier in the day you work out, the better. The other benefit of working out in the morning is that it also peaks your alertness, your energy. You want to be amped up in the morning and you want to be relaxed at night. So anything that helps you amp up, you should do it in the morning. Anything that helps you relax, you should do it at night. Rule of thumb. Another thing is you get a spurt of dopamine after exercise immediately. So not just long-term dopamine tone, but in the short term, you get more dopamine, which, by the way, makes it easier to quit your addictions. So like if you're addicted to porn or social media, it's easier to quit when you exercise because your overall levels of dopamine are higher. So you don't need that you're not craving it as much. Your brain doesn't crave it as much. So you'll notice that if you exercise 5 or 6 days a week, you'll use that stuff less. You might not stop it completely, but you'll use it a lot less, which also helps because it resensitizes your dopamine receptors, etc. Right? So exercise is non-negotiable. Everybody needs to exercise anyways. Just suck it up and do it. If you really hate exercise to the point where you're not going to do it, then try to just do the bare minimum. Try to do something at least. My recommendation, if you really like, the easiest thing to get into is running. I'm a personal trainer. I haven't had a single client that has run consistently that didn't end up loving it. Running is the most addicting form of exercise from my experience with myself personally and the clients. I don't know what it is about it, but there's something about running that, like, even if you hate running, if you do it enough, you'll eventually start loving it as you get more fit and in shape. There's something about it. I don't know what it is, but there's something about it that's honestly addicting. If you hate exercise, but you know you have to do it, the one thing I would recommend is try to run, even if it's just around the block. Just try to aim for some progress every week. Try to do a little bit more or a little bit faster, whatever. Okay? You can follow our training plan. There's free training programs online. Following a program is more addicting than trying to exercise by yourself. And I think the reason why is because most of you don't know what you're doing. But even if you know what you're doing, let's say you go on YouTube and you look up the best exercise for chest, best exercise for back, and you kind of make up your own makeshift program. You don't actually know for sure if that's actually a good program or not, or the best program for you. If you follow a program that is designed specifically for building muscle, or specifically for improving your 5K run time or whatever, you know that that's a program that is optimized for that thing. The guy that made it probably knows what he's taught. I think most people that would have the time and bother to do a training program in the first place know what they're talking about, because if you don't know what you're talking about, you're probably not going to be bothered to be motivated to make a training plan for other people. So most training plans you see online, honestly, in my opinion, are pretty legit. Yeah, some of the best courses I ever invested in were like workout programs online. I learned so much from them, and you just get to borrow from somebody else's experience. Like, they've done 10 years. Let's say somebody's been training 10 years and they've created this program that works well for them. You save all the trial and error of 10 years to just go straight into what they found works best and all the research and everything. So follow a workout program is one of the best things you can do if you are unmotivated. And just generally speaking, but especially if you're not motivated to work out, get a workout program. Ideally, running program, from my experience, is the most addicting. When you see the numbers going up and you see that you're getting more in shape, you'll feel that like when you used to be exhausted and out of breath, all of a sudden you'll feel like you can just keep going. That feeling, you can feel the progress that you make faster than any other form of fitness. So if you just get addicted to running, that would be a great segue into fitness in general. Don't start off with weight training, because weight training is honestly miserable. This has come from a personal trainer who prioritizes weight training. There's a reason why people pay me $1,000 a month. No, yeah, $1,000 a month to force them to train, because it sucks. Nobody wants to do. If everybody wanted to do it, I wouldn't be making any money, because people would just be doing it. The reason why people pay me $1,000 a month, I have clients paying me $3,000 a month and up, is because it sucks and it's miserable. So don't start with that if you're just training by yourself. Start with cardio, or even just a sport or an activity that you think looks cool, but you have to do something. 5 or 6 days a week training, that's covered. It can be as little as 10 to 20 minutes a day. 5-6 days a week, that is ideal, right? Well, ideal would be doing more than 20 minutes, but that's kind of like bare minimum. This is what we're talking about, dopamine. Now, you don't need to train 5 or 6 days a week. I want to do like a side note on that. You don't need to train 5 or 6 days a week to improve your fitness. Depending on what your goal is, you can honestly get by. I've had clients go as little as twice a week and see progress. It's not going to be optimal. You will make progress slower than you could, but you can still make progress doing 2 workouts a week. So I want to preface saying that. But for the sake of dopamine, for the sake of your mental benefit, 5 or 6 days a week is kind of what's required to increase your baseline dopamine tone. If that sounds like something you can't do, then at least do twice a week to start and gradually improve the frequency over time. I would honestly argue and clap back by saying the clients that train 5 or 6 days a week with me are the most consistent clients. The clients that train twice a week from a personal trainer standpoint are the most miserable clients to deal with. They're always canceling, they're always sick, they always got some excuse, because when you do twice a week, the problem is it's not really a routine at that point. It's kind of like negotiable. It's like, oh, do I feel like it today? I could skip today. When you do it 5 or 6 days a week, it's part of your life, it's part of your routine. I would recommend waking up a bit earlier and getting it done first thing in the morning before you do anything else. But yeah, 5 or 6 days a week, unfortunately, that is what is required for dopamine levels. And it's kind of non-negotiable, especially if you're not where you want to be in life. Okay? All right. So we talked about fitness. We talked about different habits you can do. Other habits you can do, breath work. Who am I training today? Yeah, okay. We got it. I also have to go soon because I have to pee, so I'm going to go to my client's place. I'm almost here. So we're going to end this up. We're going to finish this off soon. But, what was I saying? I'm going to rapid fire this, and we're going to wrap this up. Breath work is really good. Meditation is also good. Yoga Nidra is amazing. I'll get into those in another video. Nutrition is important. A high protein diet. You want tyrosine. Honestly, I can't focus anymore. I really have to pee. Now that I got in here, I kind of have to pee. So I'm going to finish this live stream here. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one.